Just picking up on something you said just then, I've often thought that it's really impossible to do good sense making or to orient towards truth unless we're prepared to disagree with our in-group.
The essential thing to good sense making is a commitment to earnestness, like a sincere, profound commitment to earnestness in our sense making, which means that the enemy of that is bias of any kind. And which means vested interest of any kind. And so the desire to fit in my group is a source of bias and vested interest, because my group might have things wrong or be missing stuff. And if they're willing to use, apostasy punishments, if they're willing to use, if you're not with us, you're against us, line in the sand kind of stuff, then they're not engaged in good faith in trying to understand. They think that they have understood enough, and now they're engaged in winning a war. And so if you want to find a way out of war, and so you want to engage in the kind of good sense making that could inform that, then you might be against them if you aren't with them, right? And we can see this again in fundamentalist interpretations of lots of religious views and cultural views on both sides of, the culture war. We can see the way that the left evolved a very profound tool of mimetic shaming to be able to hold a common narrative and to hold the argument that they had the only source of legitimate authority. And that looked like largely kind of capturing control of most of the academies and government institutions and lots of types of media for some period of time, but then saying you're a racist or you're an anti-Semite or you're a misogynist or you're a bigot or you're a xenophobe was effective for a long time to just have people not be able to engage in conversations that might have had some actual legitimacy. We can see, though, that of course, and I'm not saying anything new here, that as a weapon, right? That type of social shaming as a type of narrative weapon. When in a physical war, when any side gets a new weapon, the other side their engineers start working really fast to make a counter weapon, defenses and better versions of that weapon. And so this is the thing that when you think like, oh, we've got some new narrative that's going to be awesome, or some new stat, or some new method of public engagement, or getting the voters that don't normally vote out, or whatever the thing is, the moment it's successful, everybody will reverse engineer it and attack the basis of how you do it. And so we can see that the coalescing of and the kind of concretization of the alt-right was to a large degree in response to a counter-response to those social shaming tools, which then come to the place of saying like, okay, I'll embrace being a racist. I will embrace having traditional views on gender roles more fully than I might have previously, so that shaming tool doesn't work for me anymore. And grab her by the pussy is totally fine. Like, we'll vote for that guy again. And there are similar kinds of tools used on the right for being able to create in-group cohesion. And so yes, I think their earnestness and sincerity and the desire to understand reality clearly is the foundation. And then the courage to actually ask those questions and say the things that you think and notice in the presence of an in-group that is trying to force you to defect to the center of what that group think is, defect on your own self. There's courage, but there's this interesting combination of courage and humility that has to be there at the same time, which is the courage to say, I don't know if I agree. I don't know that this perspective is adequate, even if I'm compelled partially by it. I don't know that it's adequate. There are some other counter perspectives that a lot of people believe that I'm not going to rule them all as just dumb or pathological. And so I don't know if this perspective is adequate and that more thinking is needed. There's courage to do that, because if you're not with us, you're against us is a powerful tactic. But to have that confidence and at the same time say, I don't know yet what I think is true. That is the humility side that doesn't just have a new hubris that is going to try and be the center of a new narrative warfare and get people to, defect on the other sides to come join that side. So I think like earnestness and sincerity empowered by really deep courage and a deep kind of epistemic humility is going to make someone misfit for every in-group currently, which is the valley crossing that people have to go through to basically leave the forces that are arrayed in a war where all sides are wrong. To hopefully have enough people who do that start to find each other and don't do a new tribal groupthink thing, but all engage in earnest actual thinking themselves and actual conversation without orienting towards groupthink that can start to make a new strange attractor.